It's like I told people at the AI conference, you either come to the table or you can be eaten. What lawyers are doing now is they are absorbing and welcoming AI to help shortcut and cut their costs down on labor so they can take that money, not put money in their pocket, but go take that money and go spend it on effective marketing so that they can compete. The attorneys are slow to do anything because their margins are so damn good. They can run a bad business and still make a lot of money. That is changing. Same advertising budget. Intake went up 23%. Just changing my message.
Sharp strategies, sweet success. Hello, everyone, and welcome. You're listening to Sharp Strategies, Sweet Success. I'm your host, Tiffany Swedensky. And today I have with me Ken Hardison of PILMMA. And I'm very excited to have Ken on the show today. I'm actually going to be speaking at the Super Summit in May in San Antonio, and I'm very excited. And Ken wanted to come on the show. I had a few questions for him, and I'll let him finish out his introduction.
Ken Hardison, retired lawyer. I built and sold two multi-million-dollar PI firms, and then started PILMMA, Personal Injury Lawyers Marketing and Management Association, in 2009, 2010. And basically, it's we just try to help lawyers grow their practices without done for you. We do not do any done for you. It's all educational. I do a lot of masterminds. I got like 7 mastermind different levels, depending on where you're at in your growth. We do a magazine every month. It's 40, 50 pages. We have a lot of trainings. You've helped with some of them. We got a marketing roundtable, management roundtable, intake training for your intake people, because we think that's so important. This year, I've added AI trainings for the masterminds. And also, we just added a fractional CFO to talk about financial stuff. So you can't see it all, but you kind of can, it's kind of like a cafeteria. You can go and pick what you want, what you need. We got a lot of forms, just loads and loads of videos. And yeah, we put on a couple events a year. We did the AI for PI this year, and we have our big summit in May the 20th through 23rd in San Antonio. And it's usually have anywhere between 300 to 500 attorneys there, and probably about 75 to 80 vendors. So it's a pretty big event, but it's been going on for 15 years. We get a lot of good reviews. So it's, I got a money back guarantee. If you go and you don't like it first day, I'll give you money back and $1,000 worth of your travel stuff, airfares, hotels, whatever it is. I've been doing that for 15 years. Nobody's ever took me up on it, but I'll still do it in case somebody think it's not good. It might not be for everybody, but I think for the most part, we cover pretty much everything there is about growing a law firm, all kinds of marketing, all kinds of management, And this year we're going to talk about selling and buying firms, different things like that. It's going to be, and we're going to have some workshops at the end. So yeah, 44 slate.
Yeah, I'd definitely say so. My first exposure to masterminds in general was lawyer masterminds. I wasn't actually familiar with the concept until started working for law firms. And you learn a lot listening to the business owners and the problems people bring to the table. One of the first questions I had for you, since you talked to so many of these law firms and you hear about a lot of the new stuff that's going on, what should law firms, lawyers be paying attention to right now, and why?
AI. And it's not just what you think, it's in everything you do. And why it's so important is part of the mastermind process. We make lawyers bring in their numbers, like what percentage of your overhead are you spending on marketing? What percentage are you spending on staff? How much percentage are you spending of your gross on attorneys? And what has transformed over the last 5-10 years is you're seeing more and more big TV lawyers, what I call them, coming into markets like Morgan & Morgan and regional firms and national firms. So what this means is that you thought it was crowded before, it's going to get even more crowded, and it's going to be even cost you more per case acquisition. So where's that money going to come from? So you've got to work on lowering your labor costs, but you don't want to give up the service, right? And you don't want to give up the quality. And what the smart lawyers are doing now is they are absorbing and welcoming AI to help shortcut and cut their costs down on labor so they can take that money not put money in their pocket, but go take that money and go spend it on effective marketing so that they can compete because the cost per case. Listen, it's always, when I was practicing, I could get cases all day long for $500 a piece. I got law firms now in some markets, they're paying $3,500 a case and they're okay with that. In California, I got a couple of firms paying $6,000. Now their average fee is higher and they can afford to do it. If your average fee is $35,000, then you can pay, in my opinion, you can pay up to $7,000 per case. Still make plenty of money. You don't want to, but my rule of thumb is 5 or 6 times whatever you spend, you should get that much money back. If you know what your average fee is. If your average fee is 21, say 15,000, then you can spend up to $3,000 a case. Don't want to, but you can and still make a good profit. So but it's not just for that, but it's also for the marketing, Tiffany, and you know more about that than probably I do, but there's so many things to use now. Like I do a podcast too. I think I've had you on mine, is the editing. We take clips from our podcast and throw it out on social media, and it just automatically scripts out 6 30-second spots that it thinks the public will be interested in and pops it out there. And there's so many other things. You got, with AI now, you can code stuff. I just think it's going to change everything, and it is changing everything. So it's a new world. It's like I told people at the AI conference, you either come to the table or you can be eaten. That's the bottom line, really.
It's amazing to me how much marketing has changed, because at one point I was a marketing director for a law firm, and we had a small team, but everything was just so much more difficult. And there were ways to automate things back then. And then you had to have somebody who was like me, who already had some basic coding knowledge and knowledge of tech and how a lot of that stuff worked. And most firms didn't have that. And most firms, still don't have that. With AI, just everything is just 10 times easier. So you could have a smaller marketing team and expect more from them. For me, like what you mentioned, the differentiator is what's going to be hard. Like, how do you make it different enough to stand out for these firms that don't really probably care that much about their CPA, although I'm sure they do, but they're not flinching at $3,500 cost per case the way a smaller firm is.
Yeah, but I think it can help the small firms compete with the big firms. You know what I'm saying? That's what you can put out with 1 or 2 people now compared to what it used to be. Like you said, is unbelievable. Just everything, and here's the deal. It can actually help you come up. I was doing a podcast there. I was interviewing this lawyer in Oklahoma, and they got a new social media director, and they kind of hit on something that's working. And so she went to ChatGPT and kind of laid out what was going down and all this, and they give her whole strategy: what size, what length, how many times a day on which, whether it be TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, the whole strategy, like a whole 6 months of a calendar. And I've seen other people use it to help put together their marketing calendar. Or maybe even strategize, or maybe even come up with a differentiator. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm using it now to help me do copywriting. And because I can do it, but I can do it so much faster. And I know what the voice, I want Dan Kennedy's voice. I think he's a great copywriter. So I say, write this, put it, write like Dan Kennedy and put it in Ken Hardison's voice. And I might have to make a few changes, but like, instead of it taking me 3 or 4 hours, it's 5 or 10 minutes. Can you imagine how much more I can get done now? It's a game changer, in my opinion. And it's just, listen, I'm almost 70. I'll be 70 this year. And I got no qualms. I don't even know how to type, but you don't have to. You can just talk to it and it talks back. Whatever, spit it out, put it in a Word document. It's just convert it to Excel. It's crazy what it can do. Technology, I'm just terrible at. But listen, if I can do this, I don't even know how to type, then anybody can use AI if they want to. They could say, oh, I'm not going there, but you've got to think about growth is you have to adapt and pivot. It's like Darwinism. If you try to just keep doing things the same, you're going to end up extinct. At one time I was spending $650,000 a year on Yellow Page ads. In 1 year, I went to spending $30,000 on it. And why? Because things were changing. It was more digital. And I was getting cases, but the cases were costing me too much. And I was looking at my cost per case digital and cost per case on TV and cost per case and Yellow Page ad, which back then you could actually pretty easily track everything. Yeah, I think it's impossible to track stuff now with social media and so much. I mean, you could try, but you really don't know. I mean, you can do end of the chain attribution, but really it's hard because they see so many places and then they go and they might go to the website, but I got off course. But I just changed it. You've got to change with the times. I mean, when the internet came out, all my buddies, that's just a fad, and I jumped on it. I was on it at the beginning, and I was lucky to get somebody to do what they were doing with it, and we did very well with it. And I think with AI, I mean, this is probably bigger than the internet ever thought about being, in my opinion, or a microchip, anything. This is like the fastest. It's mind blowing. It's overwhelming, if you want the truth. But the deal is, you can either accept it and embrace it, or you can get left behind. I really believe that. Yeah, I really do.
I'm going to try to sound smart for a second, but prior to ChatGPT, I'm trying to think of the year. I think it was like 2021, 2020. People were talking about Web 3.0. And nobody was quite sure exactly what that looked like, but it would be a different version of the internet. It would be a version of the internet that was highly personalized. It was an incomplete vision, hear anyone talking about Web 3.0 anymore, because that was replaced by AI. And, practically everything I do on the internet now is more productive and more streamlined. And it's made more time for me to do things that enrich myself, like reading books. AI has given me more time to read books. It's not going away. It's got utility in about 1,000 different things. I'm using AI for home stuff, for basically therapy, and then also for marketing. And I couldn't be running my business as a fractional CMO without it, because there's just so much that we can automate and do. Even my project board is infused with AI, and that has just been a game changer. It's really awesome. I had 2 questions there. When I went to the AI for PI Expo back in January, it was a great event, honestly. It was a lot of fun talking to vendors, because I got to see like all of these like new tools and truly new tools on display. There are a lot of new AI companies, and I was talking to a few of them, and I was actually surprised, because I asked one of the vendors, like, how did you guys do this before? Like, how are you guys doing this, without AI? And he was just like, how are a lot of law firms doing it now is the real question, because law firms are slow to innovate when it comes to technology. And I'm curious, like, why that is. When I started working at a law firm, way back 2015, I was floored that they were still using fax machines, but they were still using fax machines. I think a lot of law firms do.
We talked about this in the mastermind, believe it or not. And I've always felt like it was the fear unknown. People don't like change because they're scared. But then somebody was saying they read a book that says something, well, they're scared how it's going to affect them. If you can show them where it's going to actually help them and make their life easier, they're more acceptable to change. But otherwise, I think it's just more work, because I got to learn something different and all this stuff, and it's just a pain in the ass. But if you can show them and convince them that it's going to help, that's the big problem about change. I still think it's a mixture of both, but nobody likes change. I don't even like change, but I know you got to survive. But, I think that's the big reason. They just think it's going to be more work. And I think right now with AI, a lot of people are scared it's taking their jobs. And when it first came out, I said, no, it's not going to take their jobs. It's just going to make them be 10 times more productive. Well, I retract that now. I think it is going to take some jobs. I think it's going to take some low-level jobs. I think these AI agents, this is what I foresee. We've already got some firms doing it. They've already set up AI agents to open up files with the insurance companies and gather medical records, call up medical providers. And listen, I was traveling back from Florida, and I stopped in this fast food chain just to grab something on the, drive-through. It's a friggin' AI, and it was perfect. And it was just talking and selling and trying to get me to buy this and buy that. But the deal was, it was very precise. And there, my wife, I said, this is not a real person. She says, what? I said, no. I said, this is AI. This is AI. I can understand why they're doing it. And it was making the line go faster. I mean, what I'm saying is, it took the order very quickly, because there was nobody there having to go get food and all that. And the other people were sitting there. When you got up there, you got your food. So I just think it's everywhere, and I think I can't remember the question. I got on a tangent.
I was asking you about why law firms are generally like
Yeah,
slow to innovate when it comes to
there's
technology, because that's like,
yeah, they're slow on everything, and I don't know about all attorneys, but I can tell you why PI attorneys are slow to do anything because their margins are so damn good. They can run a bad business and still make a lot of money. That is changing. I mean, it's getting a lot more competitive, and that's why you're seeing a lot more people get into masterminds and wanting to go to events and wanting coaching because they realize it's not as easy. When I started doing PI work when I really started just doing nothing but PI work was in '96, and I'll just be honest with you, it was easy. I put on a TV ad, and I went from signing up 20 cases a month to 120 cases a month in like 60 days. That doesn't happen now. It takes somebody 12 to 18 months that they got to bleed money before they start seeing a lot of, they start seeing a big jump in their calls. Back then, there was only 3 or 4 TV stations, and only very few lawyers doing it. Now there's 500 TV stations, and everybody's doing it. And so it's just a lot more competitive. It just takes longer. But they getting back to that, but they do tend to stay behind everything else. I mean, listen, 500 Fortune companies have been using offshore people for years and years. Then we had to do it after COVID. That's what made us do it. And we would still wouldn't be doing it for COVID, in my opinion. And they've been using AI and all these algorithms for years and years, although nobody knew about it. Google's been using it for years and years. That's how they, and Meta and all this stuff. So it's been around. We just didn't know about it and did not need it because making good living without it. But things are changing, and there's a big another thing I think law firms should be knowing about is there's a big frenzy right now with equity coming in to buy PI firms at our mastermind, especially in the firms that are over $10 million in revenues. They're getting 5 or 6 calls from different equity companies wanting to look into buying them. I had a lawyer call me this morning. He said, Ken, I don't really know what I want to do. I said, well, I set up a call. I said, we'll talk about it. I said, but here's some stuff you need to read. And I wrote an article in our magazine that we put out every month and about managed service operations where they come in and buy you out, cash you out, and then you just run the legal part, and they take care of everything else, all the back door, all the marketing, all of that, and you just get a salary. That's what they did to the medical profession years ago, and that's what they're coming in to do that law firms now, and they're really hitting PI firms and estate planning firms right now. Seems to be the 2 firms they're really keyed in on, but it's crazy. And then you got these ABS, these alternative business structures out in Arizona, and so equities putting money in there, and then they're putting money through these MSOs. And then you got some other law firms, big law firms that are doing this. One of the bigger law firms in the nation just sold out, and then he rolled back his money into the deal. Now he's going out and try to buy other law firms and set up MSOs for them so that he can flip it to some big equity company, 5 years down the road and make $1 billion. And he'll do it. I mean, it's smart, but things are changing. And so the question comes, is what happens to the little guy? What happens to the mom and pop? What happens to the guy that just wants to practice law? And, they got to figure out, they got to be smarter. They can't outspend these other guys. So you got to be smarter. And that's where people like you come in to help them and come up. You got to have uniqueness. You got to be something that the big dogs can't give them. And I think you've got to, as my mentor said, you've got to answer that question, why should I choose you over all these other lawyers I see on TV, billboards, internet, social media? Why you, Ken? And if you don't have a really good answer, you're in trouble. I mean, really, you've got to stand out. What is it? The purple cow is what Seth Godin said. You got to be the purple cow. You got to stand out in the field, and it can be different things. And I know you've worked with people that agree with me on that they talked about it a lot. I remember, but that is the key, and it doesn't have to be, when I was practicing, my big unique selling proposition or differentiator, whatever you want to call it, and I remember it to this day, no lawyer can ethically guarantee results, and we can't either, but we can and do guarantee you that if you're not completely satisfied the way we treat you in your case the first 30 days, you can go get your file, no fee, no cost. That's our 100% client service satisfaction guarantee. And that's a risk reversal, and it worked. I mean, when I did that, same advertising budget, intake went up 23%, just changing my message. And, it can make a big difference, and that risk reversal helped me convert a lot of people that were on the fence. I said, just try us out. If you don't like us 30 days, you don't really have a contract, which they really don't have a contract anyway with lawyers, right? They can get out anytime they want to. They might have to pay quantum merit, but how much are they going to have to pay the first 30 days? You just sit in the file up unless it's so 99% of the time. So it was really, and I've seen we've got some members that were on the defense and they say we got their playbook, we know their secrets. We know how to get the most money because we worked on the other side. You see all these different things. I'm sure you've seen it more than me probably, but you got to have something to stand yourself out. It's like when Walmart started coming to small towns. I remember I lived in a town with 10,000 people. And when Walmart came, you saw a lot of mom and pops go out of business within the first 2 or 3 years. But there was a few of them that flourished. And those were the ones that knew how to differentiate and added that stuff that Walmart couldn't do. Walmart can beat you on price, and but you never compete on price because somebody always undercuts you. But so they would do extra things, service, buyers clubs, different things, and that worked. They just really gave exceptional service and stood out, and they survived Walmart. I call it the Walmart effect. I mean, it can really kill a business when they came out many years ago.
I actually have a good Walmart business story, so I got to jump in with this. So Walmart was in my town since I was a kid. I don't remember when it was set up, but I do remember because my mom owned a hair salon just on the edge of the Walmart parking lot. So she got a lot of business from people shopping at Walmart and then coming to her salon to get their hair cut. And then Walmart added like a Supercuts inside the store. And initially she was worried about it. She was concerned because a big benefit of her business proximity to Walmart. But immediately, very, very soon after Supercuts opened inside of Walmart, she started receiving the people who were unhappy with what happened at Supercuts at Walmart. And they had good reason. They hired new beauticians, people just out of beauty school, new cosmetologists. So not a lot of experience. So my mom put a big banner on the side of her business that said, "We fix Walmart haircuts," and made her a lot of money. That was her differentiator for like 2 years. It was honestly, that was one of my first marketing lessons I got kind of unintentionally. But I mean, you're right. And now that Walmart's doesn't have Supercuts in there anymore, it's just not a part of the store. So like things are always changing. And, there are big firms, or there are these equity firms, these national, regional firms that are there to eat a small law firm's lunch. And you mentioned intake earlier in the call, and I think that's another huge differentiator because, I don't feel like these really small law firms understand just how aggressive and seriously the big firms take intake. The larger the firm, the more serious they are about answering phones, calling people back. And maybe I'm just trying to make a point, like pick up your phones, answer your phones, pay attention to intake, because good leads, bad leads, good leads are signable cases, bad leads are a referral opportunity, possibly, depending on how you treat them. But none of that matters if the other law firm calls them back first and signs the case first. And so, yeah, it's much more than just standing out and the cost of acquisition, the cost per case. It's, being able to pick up the phones and respond the fastest. Speed is the differentiator for most personal injury firms.
It is. And that's why we have the intake training at PILMMA, because it is so important. And people ask me, what should I, said, I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing any of this stuff. What should I start with? I said, intake. Because that will make you money because if you can convert, hire a dedicated intake person and they'll pay for themselves 10 times over because they'll sign up cases that you're in court or you're not there. It's just like, you ain't gonna believe this. So I need a lawyer to do a deed for me. I got to deed it to a trust. And so I called a local lawyer. I called 3 law firms. I still ain't talked to anybody. And I got a voice machine twice. And one said, well, since there's a trust involved, I'll have to get John to call you and talk to you. If he hadn't called you by the end of the week, will you call back? And I'm thinking, man, this is not the way it works with PI law firms. I mean, not really good ones. I mean, listen, you got, you want 2 rings, you want to be getting, you want to answer the phone, you want to have somebody there to talk to them and give them advice and close the deal and have them, and I'm thinking, I said, PIs because of the money probably is more advanced than any other type of law firm when it comes to marketing and intake. So I'm just thinking even these other law firms that do nothing to do with PI, they're horrible when it comes to, I mean, I can't believe it. I still don't have a law firm. I've called 3 lawyers a day to try to find somebody to do a simple deed. I can do it myself, and I might just get on Chat GPT and draft it all up, do the trust and everything. I don't know. I'm really thinking about it. I just ain't done real estate since 1983, so I don't know that I remember all the law, North Carolina law on it. But anyway, that just tells you that, yeah, they don't, but it's the most. And when I was doing consulting work, I don't do that anymore. That would always be the first thing I do was hire somebody to do like 5 ghost calls and record them and take it to them and sit there and let them listen to it. After they tell me, they sign up every case they want and have stuff like, a woman with 8 stitches on her head, and they tell her, but she hadn't been to the doctor yet. So they tell her to call back when she goes to the doctor. It's stupid stuff. I mean, this guy was spending over 7 figures on TV advertising. And he said, always sign up every case we want. But that you're not. You just don't know what you don't know. And that's a big difference. I've seen a firm, we had one join PILMMA, and I got them on that track, and they hired an expert to come in and audit and help train their people. With the same budget, they went and signed it up 250 cases a year to 500 cases a year. No lie. Just by fixing their intake. Probably cost them $70,000 to fix it. And it made them, probably another 2.5 million without spending any more money other than that 70,000 they spent on getting their intake, hiring a full-time person and getting some training and getting some audit. It's always that can generate money so you can spend more money on marketing to compete with these big guys. But you got to get your intake straight to begin with, or don't you don't waste your marketing dollars.
I feel like a really good example and something I experienced recently, because what I like about being a fractional CMO is I get to see what's actually happening inside of many different firms instead of just one. So I get this really nice multifaceted perspective. And so with intake, like if I was just talking to one intake person, and they told me, yeah, we get forms from the website, but a lot of times they're junk. I'll take a look at the forms. And in this case, like there is a form where the lead didn't type much in the summary. They just put car accident. They put their information, their real name, their phone number, their email, and just typed in car accident to the form. And the intake manager initially rejected the lead. And I said, no, we need to follow up with this person. We don't know what it is. And followed up, turned out to be a car accident with major injuries, like surgery injuries. And, there are probably, I think of all the law firms that get junk leads via forms, and a lot of them are actually junk, but it's hard to tell the difference between a junk lead and a good lead if you never call them back. If your intake team is free to make assumptions about who is qualified or not, just based on not enough information. It's a hard thing to undo once you have had an intake person in a role doing the same things for several months, several years. It is just a problem that just gets worse over time. And I hear that so much. Like we sign every case that we want. I've heard that for a long time. It's very frustrating. A couple more things we want to talk about before we wrap up the show. I did have one question I did have to ask you before we talk about some other things, but who do you listen to in the legal space? Like, do you listen to podcasts or read some newsletters, follow like other people talking about legal marketing, or do you just not have time for it?
No, I listen to several different podcasts. I've listened to yours. I listened to, trying to think who else. There was one that I really liked. I don't listen to them as much as I should, to be honest with you. I do a lot of reading. I like Lawson. That's a good one. I listen to some of Seth Price's stuff on local, but I don't listen to as many as I probably ought to. I read a lot of books, and I talk to a lot of lawyers every day. So I kind of get a pulse on what's working and not working just by listening. Like we got over close to 100 different mastermind members. So I get to spend 2 days with each firm, a group of them. And part of the deal is what's working and what's not working. So I get a lot of info. And then I do this Q&A every month. I just got off it today with all our members, and I hear a lot. It's funny. Somebody's talking about a lead company that was in Phoenix, said, oh, they're terrible. The guy in Chicago said, well, I had good results, but let me tell you, the guy that's using the same lead company up in Milwaukee, he's killing it. He's getting cases for $1,200. I'm getting cases, but they're costing me $3,500. And the guy in Phoenix says, I'm getting junk. Cases are costing me $6,500. Same company. So it depends a lot where you're at too, right? In the competition, which Phoenix is a very competitive market right now because of all the ABS stuff in there. I've read all Dan Kennedy's books. I read a lot of marketing books. I just got this book, Cameron Harrell, Double Double, How to Double Your Revenue and Profit in 3 years or less. So I read a lot of that stuff, and I read a lot of stuff from my magazine. And I actually just learn a lot from listening to people on my podcast. That's why I keep doing it. I mean, I do one every week, and I just keeps me relevant with what's going on, and it keeps me. I get to ask the questions that everybody else thinking about asking. The burning questions that people want to know, and I just get people on there. I had a guy on there telling today about this social media, what they're doing, and they're burning it up. And I've had you on. I mean, it should just have different people. It's got different skill sets. Like I have techie people, I have marketing people, I have management people. I have some vendors on, see what they're doing. So, yeah, I don't listen to as much as I should, to be honest with you, just because I'm just absorbing it all the time, like with my podcast and with all the stuff I read and all the events I go to. And I'm inundated with it, really.
You have exposure to so many ideas. It's hardly necessary for you to keep it really, really fresh. But I'm always curious who people follow and listen to in the marketing space because there's so much, and
Yeah.
it is hard to keep up with. It's just
Yeah.
kind of bizarre.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of Jay Abrahams and Dan Kennedy. He probably is my two people, but read a lot of books on marketing. Some of it I agree with, some of it I don't. I think it's funny that there's so many gurus out there that really are more about and consultants about growing your law firm now. They really tend to be more towards the operation side. And there's not that many really, really, really good marketers. Well, I'm saying that have really, but there are some, and you got to listen to them.
It just might be the seat I am in. I just feel like there are a ton of marketers in the legal space, like marketing gurus. But I mean, now that you mention that, I am seeing more people talk and speak to the operation side, which is good. A lot of these firms need it.
A lot of the marketing guys are digital, and maybe that's why I don't equate myself. I'm just because I don't care whether you're doing it, whatever way you're doing it, it's still got the core's got to do with the message and the position and and the call to action and all that stuff. And I think instead of figuring out which medium, you need to figure out this other stuff first. And I don't think a lot of people figure that out. Who's my ideal client? What's going to be the differentiator? How am I going to stand out? What's going to be my message? I think they forget about that. Where do I find my ideal client? Where should I be marketing? Where should I not be marketing? I don't know. I just think that applies universally. It might be some little changes here and there because of different medias. But when it comes down to it, it's all about selling somebody something and convincing them to buy something or purchase something or hire somebody that they hadn't thought about before or create a need or whatever. I mean, I've seen different things. I mean, one of my favorite TV shows, you ain't gonna believe this, I like still watching reruns of Mad Men. I mean, I watch it all the time. And I really think that story is based on Ogilvy in the 60s. I don't know if it was or not, but I've read Ogilvy's book, and it sounds like Ogilvy to me, who's a genius at marketing. And learn little tidbits in there. I mean, it's stuff I know, but it's like, hey, whoever wrote this script knows their stuff about marketing, or they wouldn't be able to do it. And it's interesting. I mean, the last episode shows how they came up with the Coca-Cola commercial back in the 60s or 70s. It was like, I love to buy the world of Coke, the one with all the different nationalities. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It was a classic.
Well, we're at our time, and I don't want to keep you. The longest episode I recorded was 2 hours, but that was an old friend.
We're not doing that.
Yeah, we're not doing that. But I did want to talk to you about the Super Summit at the end of May a little bit. I'll be there talking about, oh shoot, I've briefly forgotten my talk title. If I remember right, I'm talking about how to nurture a referral marketing list using digital marketing and some other things. I need to refresh myself on the talk title, even though I just looked at it earlier today. But it'll be awesome, I guarantee everyone. And just wanted to talk with you a little bit about it so you can share some details, get people signed up and register.
Like I said, you can go to PILMMA.org and go to events, or you can go to PILMMASummit.com and sign up. And have discounted seats at the hotel, but I think they stop in about another 2 weeks. So if you want to grab a room at like 50% off, that's the time to do it. And so the way we're doing it this year, I always try different things, different years to see if I can come up with something better. So this year, we're going to have an opening reception and early registration like on Wednesday night. I think it's the 20th. And then the 21st, we're going to have all day in one room. And we got a keynote speaker, Crabtree, who wrote a book about the numbers. You got to know your numbers. I'm going to be speaking. We got some really good speakers. And then we'll have a couple of panels. And then the second day, we'll go to lunch with the whole room full. And then at lunchtime, we're going to, after everybody gets through eating lunch, we're going to take an hour and a half lunch break. And 30 minutes, they're going to break down and make 3 different rooms. And we'll have different tracks. We're going to have a track like the second day. I think we're going to have a track on the business of law, on marketing, on AI, and then the next morning we're going to have just breakout sessions again. And we'll have some people there with some workshops on how to create a marketing plan, how to do strategic planning, quarterly strategic planning, and how to do that, show you how to do it, kind of help you do it. And then we're going to have one on AI, and they're going to teach you how to create something. I don't know. Last time at AI, it was like a gym or something, like a gym assistant. I don't know what they're going to do this time. So you actually take your computer in there, and they're going to sit down and walk you through creating something you can use in your law firm to help automate it, which I think is pretty cool. So, all that, we've got pretty good entertainment. We'll have a mariachi band at the reception, and we have a karaoke night one night, and that's going to be a little later so people can go out to eat. And then first night, full day, we'll have a mastermind reception, and that's where our masterminds get together, the VIPs, and share stories, and kind of talk about the day. And we also invite people that are interested in joining the mastermind so they can talk to people instead of me trying to sell it. But just let them talk to the people and see if it's a good fit for them. If it's not, that's fine. It's not for everybody. If it is, great. But I think people, especially lawyers, are skeptical of all this stuff, and they need to talk to other lawyers and just get the real deal, get the real scoop. I always like to talk to references when I'm spending some money. I want 2 or 3 references, and why shouldn't they get them? So I just kind of make it real easy for everybody. So yeah, that's the deal. It's we got a load of speakers. We got people talking about how even a small firm can project what they're going to make at a contingency firm, which is hard. We got a girl coming talking about the EOS system. We got people talking about, got a guy from equity funds will talk about what they're looking for when they're looking to buy firms. I got Tim Mackey going to be there talking about a one that he handled, a MSO deal, really like a multi-million dollar deal, and what to look for. And then we got people talking about local search, intake, digital, TV, radio, how to use radio, because radio can be done right and cheaply and really get some good business out of it. We've got some mastermind members that are killing it using just radio, and then how to do social media, what's working. So just about everything, any kind of marketing, any kind of management, how to hire people. It's just a whole big deal. It's, as one lawyer told me, I feel like I'm drinking water from a fire hydrant. It's that much. Bring a sharp pencil and plenty of paper, a lot of notes.
I'm really excited. And I know my listeners are very curious what I might sing on karaoke night. But in general, I just love, masterminds are so important. I need to get into a mastermind myself for my business.
I'm in a mastermind for my business. I'm dealing with other people that do what I do, but in different verticals like dentists, music academies. And we meet twice a year and kind of go over what's working, not working, on subscription services. It helps.
I was invited to not a lawyer mastermind, but like a business mastermind, like consulting. And I spent like a few hours there, and it was so reinvigorating. I can't say like I learned something brand new, but even if you don't walk away with new information, you still get more context for what other people are doing than you had before. And sometimes somebody can say the simplest things to you, and it just kind of blows your hair back, and you're just like, man, why didn't I think of that?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's always good to get, sometimes we have blind spots. We're so close to everything, we can't see what's right before others' eyes. And I've had the same thing happen to me before. As a kid, it's looking right at you. I said, what? Yeah, I guess you're right. I didn't think about it that way, but yeah, I've been in some kind of mastermind since 1997 every year. with somebody. What I'm doing now is very, very low key. Only like 5 people in it. And they're really at the height in their vertical, and they just don't want to deal with nobody else. They want to just deal with those guys that are really, really successful. And so we meet twice a year and spend a couple of days together and shared it. It's pretty cool.
You're just never going to find people who relate to that entrepreneurial side of you the way that you'll find it in masterminds. So it's just super important. Well, Ken, I feel like odd asking you. I always ask my guests, where do you want people to look you up and learn more about you? I feel like you're pretty prominent among my listeners for sure. But where do you want people to go?
Yeah, they can go to PILMMA.org, PILMMA.org, or info@PILMMA.org. We're glad to talk to you. We offer a 30-minute strategy session. I mean, it's no obligation. Like I said, we're not a great fit for everybody, but we've got a lot of success stories. It's like anything else in the world. You got to execute. You can have the best laid plans in the world, but without execution, no matter what all ideas in the world is not going to change you.
Thanks so much for being on the show today. It was great talking with you and catching up, and definitely looking forward to seeing you in San Antonio. Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much.
Thanks everyone for listening to my interview with Ken Hardison of PILMMA. As we said, I will be speaking at the PILMMA Super Summit that's taking place in San Antonio from May 20th through the 23rd. I will be talking about how to build and nurture a referral marketing list that drives potential clients and cases to your firm. We're talking about more than just email newsletters. We're talking about list nurture and growth that can help you establish referrals relationships that carry your law firm through years and years of marketing cycles, no matter what's happening on Google, no matter what local service ads are doing. And I'm going to show you the systems that we use for our clients to nurture and get more referrals from those marketing lists. So if you're available, sign up for the Super Summit May 20th through the 23rd. Come see me in San Antonio. Come listen to the other great speakers and all the great vendors that'll be there. This will actually be my first Super Summit, and I'm very excited, and I look forward to seeing you there. To sign up for the Super Summit, visit PILMMA.org. That's PILMMA.org, and look for the Super Summit there. And if you want, you can email Ken or the people at PILMMA and let them know that Tiffany sent you. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you guys next time.